Before we start the show, we just want to let you know we're a part of Bard Rock Network, sponsored by Dragon Master Games. Dragon Master Games is a local game store with an online storefront where you can get TTRPG products and collectibles, including trading cards. Just go to their website in the show notes and write in the comments, Bard Rock Network sent you. You can also support the network by subscribing to our Patreon or Ko-fi to access network-wide bonus content, get shoutouts on network shows, receive network swag, and get invited to our several annual community game nights. Anyway, on with the show.
Welcome back to College of Whispers, the actual play book club. As always, I'm Marty, and I am joined by my co-host, Vicky.
Hello! That came out really high.
And today, we are going to talk about the Dungeon Run.
We are.
Do you want to give a sort of overview of the show?
Ooh, okay.
This time?
Ooh, no pressure. Dungeon Run, this is just everything that I've managed to pull off, like their website and their wiki. Started, if you want specifics, 24th of April 2019. They're on Twitch Live. They're every Wednesday at 6 p.m. PST Pacific. Like the first one that I think I've seen that, apart from Quick Roll, that is live on Twitch. It's the first time that I think we've gone through anything that's been fully live. Their funding as well comes from what I can see is like mostly Patreon and subscriptions and donations on Twitch as well. And it's a cast of, what I can tell is a very talented cast of characters and people that are pretty much very showbiz and wonderfully talented. I don't know how to say wonderfully talented too many times. I've written it. Many like
so our cast here is
yes.
Ron Ogden as Uggo, Jared K. Jack as Sif Red Thistle, Morgan Peter Brown as James Quillis, Katie Michaels as Lily Dumblestuck, Jessica Lynn Parsons as Fahima Tog, and Jeff Kanata as the DM.
I'm glad you could say those.
I really hope I got Fahima's last name right, because I was a little concerned that I wasn't going to.
I think the effort is the most thing. I think people will correct us if we say it differently. Absolutely.
Like you were saying, very talented group of individuals. From the jump, I really appreciated that they were willing to, invest and buy into scenes with each other, and were able to come together as a group just quickly, and their general professionalism and talent was on display pretty much, I'd say, from the beginning.
Yes, definitely agree. You wouldn't believe that these are like professionals. You'd think that they were friends that had been together for quite a while. The way they just kind of almost riff off each other and interact with each other and then play on a sort of a yes and, like an improv background, I think shows through.
And they did mention, like, up top that they had done like a session 0 or like a couple pre-stream sessions, which kind of came out in like the little bits of like rapport that the party had with each other from the beginning.
Yes.
And it just felt easy to jump into. I feel like.
Yeah, it's almost like we were joining them sort of halfway on an adventure type situation. We were like, okay, this is a cast of characters that already know each other and they're going somewhere, let's tag along.
This being our first live streamed show that we're covering on the show, I thought we would take a minute and kind of discuss the difference that you get when you take a live show or like a game like D&D and translate it to a live setting versus a like pre-recorded or edited setting. I think that the Dungeon Run has its merits as a live program and they do interact. They do have a lot of interaction with like the chat and the live stream.
Yes.
They have a host that comes in like during the break and kind of like the before, like the pre-session time to like interact with chat and like discuss. And I think that's great for the live audience. For somebody that's trying to watch after the fact, it's kind of not, I wouldn't say bad necessarily, but I would say it's because I will clarify, I listened to the audio version of the show. You know, and this is live streamed on Twitch, so obviously there is a video aspect to it. They use minis and maps, and there's a lot of visual humor, I feel like, that I might have missed out on. And then in the break, there's a lot of interaction with chat, and you can't see the chat because obviously you're listening through just headphones and just audio. So there is a part of the experience that gets missed out on if you're listening to it after the fact in a medium that it wasn't intended for.
Got you. Yeah. They don't show the chat on the videos, so you just get the I don't know how to describe it, but you just get the players themselves. You don't see the Twitch chat. So again, you kind of miss out on that, and sometimes it would be nice if they just repeated what chat had asked, or just so you kind of get what the first interaction was that prompted the question, or something like that. You don't really see the chat interactions. You just have the VOD reactions that the players have. So yeah, again, it feels like you're missing something that if you were there live, it would mean more. You'd be able to see the chat there. You'd be able to interact more and maybe raise your own questions. So again, it's a little bit that you're missing, really. Definitely.
Yeah, because they do even have like where chatters can donate and like with subscriptions and or just random donations to affect the game, like give players advantage or disadvantage.
Indeed.
And other things of that nature. And that's very cool, but on the other hand, for a production that feels like it's taking itself a little more seriously than other like smaller creators, it feels like putting your fate into the hands of Twitch chat in that sort of story feels a little like dicey. I don't know.
Dicey. I love it.
That's not intended, but
an intended pun.
Very good pun.
There are points where, because I have sort of watched a few of the more recent videos just to see the difference between the two series. There are points where chat will either hinder or help. So there'll be points where it's like, oh, such and such person gets advantage, but another person gets disadvantage. And it's a bit sort of almost like targeted, but I don't think it is targeted, but it feels like it when the same characters had disadvantage for like 3 times in a row, and it's like, ugh, is there something that's going on in chat that I'm missing out on?
I will say the production value as a whole is very top-notch from right out the gate. They have solid audio quality. From the few clips I've seen, because my first exposure to this production was through TikTok. The clips that I've seen of them, they seem to be in a studio setting, which is very nice to see. So it is a very like well maintained, high tier like production value. It is. I think it's a shame that they kind of just took the raw audio of their sessions and just plastered it onto a podcast feed. I think if they had taken a little time and maybe cut out some of the breaks, or I mean that's my main issue, is like they kept the whole like midstream break in their like podcast feed.
Oh gosh, okay.
And I was at work at the time that I was listening to one of the episodes, and the break came on, and I can't just like pull out my phone while I'm in the middle of like doing my job and just go skip
right
through the break.
Yeah.
So I was just sitting there with like random moments of just like silence, and then a guy responding to Twitch chat, which
oh gosh, Yes.
To me, is just not entertaining.
No.
It might be entertaining to somebody, but that's just not my bag,
I think,
personally.
yeah, sat there watching it, you would be entertained. But when it's live, sat there watching it, you would be entertained. But again, I missed the I saw the moments where it was silent and then he answered for the chat. So again, I'd love to have like the question maybe underneath that popped up. I don't know how far back they can go in the VODs and things, whether that's been kept, because I know Twitch has wiped a load of VODs and things.
Oh yeah.
So maybe the questions are lost forever, but they do the for campaign 2 they've done the catch-up episodes. They've done like smaller bites of the full episode and condensed the 4 hours down into 15 minutes. So they do have people out there doing editing for them, so they could go back in and sort of chop out for the podcast maybe.
For sure.
The opportunity is there for people to do it. It just
I do think that is kind of a common like thread with a lot of productions, especially like your Critical Roles, your Dimension 20s, and this show especially is a lot of shows are just like the audio only format, and that's just how they run.
Yeah.
And putting your show that's like typically filmed onto an audio medium is very great and makes it a lot more accessible to more people. I think if you're gonna do it though, you need to put just like a little bit of effort into like making it more listenable for like a podcast audience.
Agreed. Definitely.
And that also kind of leads me into another like topic I want to discuss on today's episode is the runtime of an episode of an actual play. This show, the Dungeon Run specifically, I got through 3 episodes.
Yes.
On average, an episode of the Dungeon Run is 3.5 to 4 hours.
So
for a session of D&D, that is a very good session of D&D. It's I would say a very solid, like you sit down at home and play a game of D&D. It's going to take 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, agreed.
And for a live stream, I think that's also fine because, it's live and you're sitting down and playing a game of D&D. When you're releasing it as content, I feel like it's almost necessary to break it up into more digestible chunks.
Yes, agreed.
Like the Adventure Zone, to bring up like a well-known example, on average was about an hour to an hour and a half. In their later seasons, they started going even shorter, like even 45 minutes to 50 minutes. And I think that might be a little too short for something that releases bi-weekly. But kind of that, like, especially for a podcast, or an actual plays podcast in particular, like that 60 to 90 minute range.
Yes.
Fits better into like more people's like longer commutes if they have those, or just like work time. And especially if you're in a format that releases like once a week or once every other week, if somebody's not keeping up with you like on the day that you release, and then all of a sudden they have after like a month of like being away from your show has 10 hours
literally
or more to catch up on, it becomes insurmountable.
It is a lot, yes, for sure. And they do, like I said, they have had the campaign 2 is condensed, so somebody is there tweaking it. It is, the opportunity is there for them to do that. They could sit there and do it and make a really good, concise hour and a half, 2 hour episode per episode, if that makes sense.
Listen, people, if you're out there listening, I'm looking for editing work. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do it for you. Just give me a little bit of money. I'll do it for you.
Definitely.
Critical Role, hit me up. Dimension 20, hit me up. Dungeon Run, hit me up.
Go for it. 100%.
But yes,
Hey folks, we just want to take a break from the action to let you know how you can support the show. As part of Bard Rock Network, you can support us through a number of affiliate programs where a portion of your order goes to support the network. Everybody loves dice, right? Fan Roll Dice make dice of all shapes and sizes, as well as accessories like trays, bags and towers. Or maybe you want to take better campaign notes. Just check out Minver RPG and look at their assortment of campaign journals and tools. Finally, you can level up your game night with tea or coffee from Many Worlds Tavern. In addition to delicious tea and coffee, they have stickers, tokens for your favourite trading card games, and playmats. Qualifying orders even come with free dice. All those affiliate links can be found in the show notes, and you just need to use the code BardRockCafe at checkout to save on your order.
Most folks don't realize it, but the world is ripe with monsters. And when you have a monster problem, you need someone who is smart.
I came over here, I saw that there was a crime scene. I figured, I'd park here on the
crime scene.
Brave.
It's just not our fight. We just honk the horn, everybody dissipates, and we just ride away.
And qualified.
If nobody is going to assist David with this, he is going to pull out his nunchucks.
Who gave him those nunchucks?
Van Helmen's family is none of those things, but they're the best we've got, so check them out on Monster Cafe. Available now wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
I really do think, like, an hour to an hour and a half is a sweet spot for especially the audio format.
Yes.
In like finale sense, like if you're at like the finale of a campaign or whatever, if you want to go longer, that's fine. You have a lot of stuff to suddenly wrap up all at once. But if your average episode is over 3.5 hours, it's not going to hold my attention the whole time. And that's from an ADHD perspective.
100%. Even I can't concentrate for that long. I think when we did Moon Harbour last episode, their episodes were like an hour, just over an hour, and that was perfect.
It was very digestible.
Yes, 100%. I could take one episode while I was prepping and just listen to that episode, and then have a break and do something else, and then come back. And I found that really
and there is something to be said about like consistency in your like uploads, because to bring up a close to the chest example, my show Wayfaring Strangers, which we'll talk about next episode, our runtime was a little all over the place.
Yes.
For our first season, because some of our episodes were like an hour and a half plus, and some of them were 45 minutes. And I think you want to maintain more consistency for an audience, for sure.
Depends what content you've had. If you've only got 45 minutes but it's good content, then have that 45 minutes good content. Don't stretch it out.
But if it's just like, it also depends on like what happens in the session, right?
Exactly.
If you're doing a shopping episode and it's only 45 minutes long and that's all that happens in the episode, maybe just take like from your next session and just chunk it in there.
Chunk it in, yeah, or keep it like a small shopping episode. Just keep it there and just say to your audience, it's a shopping episode. What more do you want?
Right. That's also true.
We sat around haggling for 45 minutes. That's it. It's a filler episode.
This started out as a simple shopping trip and it became 45 minutes of a police chase. Oops. That's the game. Da 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 da.
Roll of the dice.
But yeah. So yeah, I think the runtime is a problem for a lot of shows, and it's a big barrier to entry. I feel like for a lot of people, because I've gone to friends of mine that aren't in like the TTRPG space and said, "Hey, I need somebody to talk to about this show. Will you listen to it or watch it and catch up with me?" And they're like, "Oh, sure. How long will it take?" And I was like, "Longer than the entirety of One Piece." And they said, "No,
no, I can't commit to that.
I won't do that. Simply no."
No, hell no.
So, coming back to the original topic of the dungeon run, I am a big fan of this cast. I think they have a lot going on as far as like role play ability and knowledge of the rules and all that good stuff.
100%, yeah.
But there wasn't anything in the show proper that stuck out to me as like, this is what's going to keep me invested long term.
Yes, I think I'd agree there. It's almost like a generic. I want to say generic. I don't know if that's the story behind it didn't grab me.
Yeah, it's a very run of the mill fantasy story from the jump, and I think to bring in a general audience, that's good. You don't want to get too high concept from episode 1, of course, and you know we. By nature of like our show and how it runs, like we have to kind of curate the amount that we're gonna spend time on each show. Otherwise, we'll put out an episode once every like 2 years when we get done catching up on a show.
If that.
So, you know, I didn't get as far as I would have liked to into this show, but there wasn't anything in the episodes that I watched that really made me go, "Ooh, I gotta keep going with this one because this one's gonna be big." And I think, you know, D&D kind of starts out like that. It's a very slow beginning, but if you're gonna do it to entertain people, you have to have something. You have to have something out the gate that's like, "Ooh, okay."
Yeah.
Because like even with Critical Role, like it took me. I had known about Critical Role for quite a while, and it wasn't until I saw like the uproar that happened when, spoilers for Campaign 2, Molly Mock Tea Leaf died. I saw that on social media, and I said, "Okay,
we gotta see this.
I gotta give it a go."
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think you have to have something that's gonna grab people's attention from the start.
Yes, 100%. I think I joined Critical Role at the start of Campaign 2. I was quite lucky in that I caught the end of Campaign 1 and was from the start of Campaign 2. So I had to catch up on Campaign 1, but it was like a very slow. But yeah, it's more... there's something about Critical Role that entertains you rather than you sitting there passively watching it. I know there is the interactions, and you can donate to bless or curse the die for Dungeon Run. It just seems like something that is there for people who are watching live. So if you have the opportunity to be able to watch it live, unfortunately it's on far too late for me over here in Europe to do it. But I feel it's more for a very live audience, and it's one of those that you have to be there to experience it, rather than sort of catching up later, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yes. And you know, having chat interaction is a novel idea, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were one of the earlier shows to adopt, you know, leaning into Twitch as like a factor in their sessions. But I think it is a little superficial. Like it adds to the experience, but not in a super meaningful way.
No.
At least starting out. You know, because it's cool to give a character advantage or disadvantage by donating. But then they go, "Oh, you've just been given advantage," and you're like, and if you're listening to it or watching it after the fact, you're like, "Oh, okay, cool. I wonder who did that."
They do get better. Like I say, when I was watching the catch up of the newer stuff, there is more mention of who has donated. So you know, this advantage is given to you by such and such a person's username. They speak way too fast for me to catch which usernames it is that people are saying. And then there is like props as well. Not props. Items that are given to the casting as well. So the donations, I don't remember what it's called, but they hit a level at which point they get a prop.
Like a stretch goal.
yes, there's like a card that they get given. There's like so much donations happen, and then they hit a point where it's like, okay, this is now being given to the group, which again would be interesting. It's kind of a I want to say double-edged sword, but I'm not quite sure if that's the right phrase. But it's like I'm not sure how much you'd have to be careful which items you prep to come in, because I think it might affect player agency. It might affect what's going on. Yeah, it's an interesting way that they're going through it, and it's worked for them so far.
Oh yeah,
I'm just waiting.
I think they're doing quite well, and you know, from the little bit I've seen, I can tell like it has the identity and the bones of a very like professional and top tier
100%
project.
Definitely.
It's just hard to get invested, like especially if you're trying to catch up, especially if you're you know, maybe looking for something that's a little different. Like at the end of the day, this does start out as just a pretty bog standard fantasy campaign.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I truly think there's nothing wrong with that.
Definitely not. Sometimes we just need a little bit of mac and cheese, just the normal.
For sure. The one thing I will say that would get me to, you know, continue on with this show is the characters themselves, especially the campaign 1 crew. I immediately fell in love with Ron Ogden's Uggo. Very fantastic character voice, just a very good very good boy, and love it.
Ooh.
And Lily is also the I believe a dwarf bard.
Yeah.
From Bingle.
I love it.
Just the name Bingle alone made me just smile every time I heard it.
Amazing,
so,
for sure.
You know, the cast is has potential for sure, and I think if I stick around with it a little longer, it will, you know, what's the word? Flourish, perhaps, or thrive.
I mean, Ron is the DM for campaign 2, so he gets to do all the voices.
Oh heck yeah!
Many voices.
He's very good at what he does.
100%. Yes.
I think I follow him on TikTok as well, and he's a good creator. I think he's a good name to have in the space.
Yes.
But yeah, there is a pretty big like content warning, I would say, for gore in the very first episode.
Oh gosh, yes. Sorry, the content warnings.
Oh, yeah, and that was just something that I noticed even when I was playing or when I was listening to it, and I said, "Oh my goodness, this came out very quick."
Yes, yeah. There's definitely. I think I chalked it all up for the generic fantasy, high fantasy, D&D. You're gonna get what you get type thing. There was nothing that kind of it is what it is. It's fantasy, it's D&D. They're fighting people. There's going to be very graphic descriptions of what happens.
Oh yeah.
Nothing really. I've probably missed it,
and that's okay.
But
we might cut this part out.
Yeah, nothing really nothing really set my senses off. Not like D20's Fantasy High did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! Like when I listened back to that, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
There was like some messed up stuff in Fantasy High.
I kind of compare everything now to episode 2 of Fantasy High. It's like how much is it going to be affecting me?
What's your Brennan Lee Mulligan episode 2 level of like?
Yes.
What is going on?
On a scale of normal to Fantasy High episode 2, how where are you in the level type thing? Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that, and I don't think I should have looked up the warnings, to be fair.
And the thing about Dimension 20 is every episode 2 is just like that.
Isn't it? I can't wait until we do some more, and then I'm finding out Although it was a Bria doing it, so I was going to say I don't think the Fae one, the Court of
Oh yeah.
Oh
Man, I can't wait to talk about that one.
It's my favorite.
It's so good. And we still have such a huge list of stuff to go through.
I know. We'll get there. It's fine. It's content. Everything's content.
Hey,
it's fine.
Everything is content, and we'll be doing this until we die.
Yes. I mean,
because
I've finally got to the point where I can put my Dropout subscription on like my expenses now because of doing this, so I can keep it going. I'm like, yeah, that's good on the expenses. That's done.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's smart.
I mean, technically, this is work. It's technically, I can make it work.
I can.
For sure, for definite.
Yes.
No, I didn't catch anything. I'm probably should have been more aware of it. I think I was just sort of listening to it.
Other than there was like one very specific moment where the characters were going through a portal and some stuff happened and I said, "Oh, that just like put something in my brain and I didn't like it."
No, didn't like that bit. No, for sure.
But yeah, I think overall this is a very safe production. As far as those kinds of things go, the cast and crew all like trust each other a great deal.
Yes.
From even the little bit that I watched, have a very good understanding with each other and are able to, even if something does come up at the table, probably talk it out. I would imagine very professional crew.
Yeah. Maybe it's one of the pitfalls of live. I've not seen it yet, but I don't know if there is anything that comes up that maybe somebody has to raise, and it'd be interesting to see how they dealt with that, but I've not managed to catch any of that happening.
I have seen that in some other productions, and even in Critical Role, like the earlier episodes of Campaign 1, there is some of that at the table, and you're just kind of like, oh, wait, was that like oh, okay.
Huh. Was that with a certain someone who is never mentioned anymore on Critical Role?
Yeah, we don't...
Yeah. Got you.
I think we're going to have a bit of a shorter episode today because we don't have any submissions for our fun little segment, Dear Aboleth, this week.
Oh, wow.
But that's okay. We will be posting the submission form on our social media pages in the near future.
100%.
Probably before this episode airs.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. And so by the time we get there, you'll be able to send us your questions. And please send us your questions.
Please send us your questions.
In closing, I think the dungeon run as a whole, or as, from what I watched, very solid production, very stellar cast, a little too safe in the tropes it uses from the start. But overall, a decent listen.
Definitely.
Yeah. Probably an even better viewing experience than a listening experience.
I'd have to try it, see.
So now, as always, we are at the end of our show where we roll a d20 and determine what we'll be talking about next.
Yeah.
Vicky, would you like to do the honors this time?
Okay, I actually have a dice to roll this time. 14.
14. Oh, all right, here we are. 14 is my show, Wayfaring Strangers. So for episode 4, we will be talking Wayfaring Strangers, the first 10 episodes.
Amazing. No pressure.
No pressure. I hope you like it.
I hope so too. I really do.
That is going to do it for us here at College of Whispers. We will see you next time for my show, Wayfaring Strangers.
Yes. This is going to be interesting.
It'll be interesting. I'm going to try to get us a special guest for that one, so be on the lookout.
Okay.
So, thank you again for listening to College of Whispers, and may your backlog grow ever shorter.
I like it.
Yeah, I think we're keeping it.
It was actually a 14, not gonna lie.
Perfect.
Hey, 14. Oh wait, I recognise that one.
That's me.
That's you.
That's my show. Should we
Oh
be
my
talking
God.
about my show so soon? I don't know, but the dice tell their
100%.
story, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thanks for listening to College of Whispers. Our intro and outro song is Everything by Winter Wayfarer. Check them out on all major streaming platforms. You can find College of Whispers on social media at all the relevant places listed in the show notes. College of Whispers is a Bard Rock Network production. Learn more about the network in the show notes and on social media. Thank you so much for listening to this Bard Rock Network production. Don't forget, you can support us by checking out Bard Rock Network sponsor, Dragon Master Games. Support a local game store, get yourself some TTRPG essentials, and help the network produce more excellent content. It really makes a difference. Our show and all the other shows on Bard Rock Network wouldn't be possible without the support of people like you on our Patreon and Ko-fi. That's why we like to thank supporters who pledge above a certain tier at the end of network productions. This month's top supporters are Sarah, Queen, Viralore, and Paul. Thank you all so much for supporting the network. If you want to get shoutouts and other rewards, pledge on our Patreon or Ko-fi today. Links in the show notes.